extract it. So this extracted one I will open. If you see here, one sample page in HTML they have given, and these are all the styles and other stuff, icons, images, font, whatever required. So full folder you copy and paste it in your uh, local directory, okay, wherever you want. Suppose this is your local directory, root. It will say that with this name already one folder is existing, because by default when you create the project it might have created already all these folders. Only thing is these styles are missing. You can say overwrite it so that it will apply these styles as well there. And that HTML page also it will paste somewhere here. We don't need that. That you can delete it if necessary. We don't need that HTML page. Right? So just for the sake of copy pasting the code, you just open it in your Visual Studio. That means you need template style, however coding should be yours, right? So this is current page for you, and this is the templated page which you downloaded. So what you do is you just take this HTML and replace with that HTML. I will not delete it now, I will just comment it for a minute, okay, because I have to cross check is there any coding or any dependency that is there and I am missing it. So I just used templated style, however coding should be ours. So in our templated style we have to take this user ID, because chances there our coding might have dependent upon this user ID, this password, because it's a model type view if you see at the top, okay. So you have to check where exactly they have used their controls. Those controls should be replaced by our controls. Check it out, this is their control, line number 46, which is for user ID, and this is their control for the password. So what I will do, since we have some dependency upon these controls, user ID control and password control, as well as this button, which is submit button. So these controls we have to keep, but this style we don't want to use, right? So take this, whichever is essential for you. And one more thing essential for us is this form, okay. So that form, chances there here it is not available, we have to define that. It is there in fact. So here you go, replace their user ID, don't delete it, comment it for a minute and then paste it. Similarly for password, this is our control, so we want to take our control and their style. So here you go and replace this password. Then you compare what style they have used and what style we have used. You can see here class equal to form dash control. This is also Bootstrap style. That is also Bootstrap style when they are writing input 100. But this is a customized Bootstrap style and this is default Bootstrap style. So we are not happy with the default styling, so we have to take the customized styling. That's it. That means if I will take this and put it here, and you can see here some placeholder they have provided for the password. That also you can take. Placeholder means watermark. When you start typing, that will go automatically. That is called watermark or placeholder. Other things is same. User ID, password, two controls we have taken. Here also two controls. And ASP for is essential for us because it's MVC. As per their styling, it is just name equal to something, ID equal to something, but they might not have given any such ASP dash for like our HTML5 and MVC control. So our control, their styling. Similarly, let's work for the user ID. Placeholder email they have written. If you want, you can go for placeholder equal to user ID. And class equal to form dash control as per our default styling, but as per customized styling it is input 100, so that also will replace. Alright, that's it. And button, their button might be a simple without any command, without any action, without any submit or anything, that we have to replace with our button. Check it out, where is it? This is the button. Okay, line number 64. So we have to replace that with our button because our button is one action button. So let me copy this and put it there. Why I am commenting is just to compare and replace the styling. So here our default style of the button is BTN primary, but their style button is something like this. I can copy this and I can use it here, right? Other things like forgot password, link, these things if you want to keep, you can keep it. But sign up, as per our project, we don't want sign up on the screen, so I can delete that sign up link. But if you want, you can give this forgot password link. What is this user password? If anywhere you are getting doubt, what is that? You can just open that and run it once. So come here, open it in browser and check what is that. Forgot username / password. So I don't want forgot username / password. I will say forgot password, something like this. Or here itself you can say forgot password instead of a link. Okay. Or here itself you can say forget password. It's after all a hyperlink. So if you want to give a hyperlink, you can even replace with your HTML.action link along with this. Just keep as it is. If you want to work on this, then replace this particular part with @HTML.action link. But keep this style in place, whatever they have kept the style. So idea is you should adapt their styling, but your application, your control, your application, your coding, everything yours. Only the style part should be theirs. So run once. If it runs fine and looks good, then you can delete whatever you have commented. Okay, so let me cross check once more whether we have commented unnecessary items. Yeah, so let's run once here. Acha, in form, little bit as per our form, if you see ASP action equal to index, so that part you can copy and paste it there also. Style you should not delete, but whatever action and other things you have to adopt from your page. Or if you want to say using HTML for begin form, there also you can write. So this is scaffolding view I have created at the beginning. So as per scaffolding view, it is form tag. So let's run it and see whether our page looks like that. So this is not that template HTML page. This is our page. You can see here create is coming because in our button chance either create has been written. So we will replace that with login. So go here. You can see value equal to create. So you just replace it with login. Other things looks good. So that if I'll click, it should work also. Let me check that. So I'll stop it and run it again. If I'm clicking this login button, it should take my data and reach here. That is more important for us than the styling. So let me run it again. Put a breakpoint here as well as here. So you should not do something that because of styling and template, your functionality stopped running. It should not be like that. So use whatever styling you want to use from the Bootstrap, but your general functionality should not stop. Have a look, it is coming here and it is collecting the data also. Since I have used both as text box, that's why password also visible. What you can do is you can do type equal to password also, so that will not be visible to you. So this way I just applied for a small login page. Process is same. You can search for various other pages and you can replace your styling. So keep it in mind always, coding should be yours, styling should be theirs. For that, whatever common sense you have to apply and copy paste. It is nothing more than copy pasting. Now once your page run, then you have to delete whatever the commented code. So I'm just deleting those commented codes. Alright. So very small topic, but good topic for UI point of view. So nowadays nobody is putting 100 hours for designing the Bootstrap. Just within 4 to 5,000 rupees you will get minimum 100 to 150 templates and you can implement it. So being a non-creative designer, that means you are a developer, not a creative designer, still you can apply something creative, that means something good looking. These are all free of cost templates, that's why not that rich, but when you purchase it will be even better than these templates what you get, okay, free of cost. So whoever are developed first module and second module, I think few people have already completed second module also, sorry, third module also. So I will suggest start applying this template styling in all the pages. Now one more topic I'm going to teach, which I have already taught to some of the students, okay. So some students might have already attended that, but some student might not have attended that because in middle I have merged two groups. So those who have attended
it's 7 o'clock.
If you want you can leave, or if you want you can stay also. Those who have not attended, you have to stay. So that is authentication and authorization, okay. There is a filter. So authentication filter, authentication and authorization. Some students have already covered this and they have implemented in project also, okay, and they have shown me. So those students, optional if you want to stay, since this topic is pending for some group of students. So let me complete this so that both the groups you will be in same line. So authentication says checking user ID and password whether correct or not. Okay, checking user ID and password whether correct or not. Authorization says authorization. Once authentication is done, that means really it is working fine, then it will check whether permission is there or not. The user is authorized to use that feature or not. Right? So always authorization follows through authentication. This is called filter. In MVC we say it as filter. Authentication and authorization filter. So usually we use some attribute just like this, authorize. Using that authorize attribute, we authorize a person, particular logged on user ID. So what technique they follow is, in technology, first you have to authenticate. Authenticate means go to database, check whether user ID password is correct or not, and if correct, put that user ID password in something called authentication cookie. So first authentication, then authorization. Steps are like this. Step number 1, when you click login button, then authenticate it. User ID and password. That means go to database. As per our entity framework, we pass some view model data and then go to repository and check it out whether user ID password is correct or not. If correct, come back into controller and put those into authentication cookies. So when you click login button, authenticate the user ID and password. And second point is, if authenticated, that means if everything goes well, user ID password is correct, then bring some of its detail like role, user ID, etc., and put them into authentication cookie. Okay, this part will be in controller. You have to put it in the authentication cookie. Now after that, then redirect wherever you want to redirect. That means redirection of the page. Somebody says, okay, if user ID password is correct, please redirect to registration screen. If user ID password is correct, please redirect. If role is so and so, please redirect to feedback screen or feedback scheduling screen. Totally depend upon the business logic, you have to redirect. Now in the target redirection controller, when you are saying redirect, what you write for redirection? You write return redirect to action of, within bracket you give the action name. Okay, target action, whatever it is. Now this target action, command target controller, if it's same controller, only action. If it is different controller, target controller also. Right? This is the syntax. So in this target controller, you have to do something. So fourth point is, in target controller, use authorize attribute along with specific role. Like this. Within authorize, you have to put a bracket, then have to say role equal to roles equal to whatever role. Suppose somebody says this particular action method should be allowed only for admin, then you have to give admin. This is only for admin as well as manager, then you have to give like this. So comma separated authorization roles you can provide. That means other than these roles, if somebody is logging in, they will not be allowed to that action method. Now question arises where it is going and checking that current logged on user's role is admin, manager among this or not. This will be comparing with this. Just here we wrote put your role as well as user ID in the authentication cookie. So in authentication cookie, it will check whether this data is current data available or not. So whenever currently logged on user will be authenticated, his role is already in the authentication cookie. So it will internally go and check whether a particular role among this list is matching with the current role of the authentication cookie or not. So these are the conceptual steps. Now we will see how practically we can implement it. Achha, before all of this, one thing in the middleware we have to do, I will name it as 0. Okay, that means before starting the process itself, you have to activate it. So activate authentication and authorization in middleware. That means program.cs, you have to go and activate it. So how to do all these steps, I will show you. So let me save this. I have shown this already to some of the people. For you it will be repeated today, but those whom I have not shown, for you it is new. So authentication and authorization. Okay, so I have already prepared one application where one repository is there, one controller is there, one login page is there, and one target controller is there. Okay, just not to waste the time, already it is there. In our CRUD operation, we have tried it. So that I have copy pasted and implemented these extra things. So only focus on the extra things what I have written here. Okay. So other than that, database connectivity, then going and checking whether user ID correct or not, all these things already we know that we have done it in CRUD operation. So I'm just opening that solution. So these are the steps what I wrote here is the extra thing. I will show you where we have done what. So first we have to go to middleware, means program.cs. How we have activated authentication and authorization. By default it is not activated, guys. If you write all this coding also, it is not going to work unless you activate it in middleware. So come here, extremely below, line number 30 and 31, have a look. When you create the project, this one automatically comes, line number 31. But if you are not utilizing the authentication authorization, that doesn't make any sense. If it is there also, automatically it will not work unless you write some coding, right? So app.use authentication, app.use authorization, these two things you have to do. And one more thing, you have to activate cookie also. Okay, so line number 8, have a look. I have activated the cookie. Cookie is deactivated by default in MVC core, but in MVC 5 and before, it was by default activated, right? Since it is on-demand feature, that's why they said you have to activate manually. So builder.services.add authentication, this one you have to write cookie authentication default dot authentication scheme, and inside that you have to give some expression that add the cookie, and if by chance that cookie is not matching during login, then redirect to this page, and if by chance it is not matching while accessing the target path, then access denied path, you should go to this page. Now we have to check whether this login page is available or not. This is controller and this is action method. This is optional. Somebody can ignore this and put a semicolon here also. In this case, what will happen? It will activate the authentication cookie, no problem. Your authentication, authorization both will work. But if by chance your target URL is not existing, okay, when we are redirecting to registration page or somewhere home page, etc., imagine that target page is not existing or not authenticated or not really applicable for you as a role, then where to redirect? That is also important. That's why here we are providing that by chance your login path itself wrong, then go here. If by chance everything good, but while targeting to another controller or another action method, it has seen that you are not authorized for that guy, that particular page, then it should redirect to this. So both are not mandatory. Any one also you can give. One is when login page itself is invalid, then go to this. One is if access denied, then go to this. Both I have given same. That means if somewhere page not found, also go to login page. If somewhere permission not granted, also go to login page. Like that I put. You can prepare some other instruction page also and redirect like this. You can say, okay, I have an instruction page whose name is instruction. So you can write login activity / instruction. This login activity is my controller name and this is my action method name. Right? Understood? Both this line. One is when URL is wrong, one is when accessibility permission is not there. Now come to your controller. So this is one activity between controller and repository part, totally up to you. If you want to check your user ID password in database, then you can go for that. Now come to this login page. HTTP post login page. I have a controller, I have an action method, and respective to this action method, I have a view also. Let me show you that view as well. Just one user ID, one password, and one submit button I have kept. The one which we just now prepared, almost similar to that. When I will submit this button, login button, I want it should go to database and check my user ID and password. Okay. Step number 1. That is what I did here. This part you already know, nothing new for you. So you are calling a function from repository and passing this user information. In that repository, what you are doing? You are just checking with the database whether I have just written one line for you that connect with database, cross check whether user ID and password is correct or not. I assume that it is correct. If correct, two things you have to return back from here: role of the current person and user ID of the current person. So that I am returning from the repository to controller again. This DT line number 24 will have user ID and role ID. If everything goes well, if by chance your user ID or password is incorrect, then it should be null. Based on that, I have written this condition, line number 26. So line number 26 I wrote, if by chance this is not equal to null, that means I assume everything goes well, authentication successfully. If so, then put user ID and role ID into authentication cookie. Now, particularly about role ID, check it out. Sometimes what happens in some of the application, one person may have multiple role. Okay, this concept is also called role-based authorization. So imagine one person who logged on now, he is admin also, he is manager also. then it should be collected and stored into an array. So what I did, I prepared one array and I passed that data dt.role, so that it will prepare a splitted data. If admin comma manager, it will put that admin in 0 index and manager in 1 index. That means that collected data I'm just putting into one string array. Then I put user ID and not password, user ID and role into the authentication cookie. So in middleware you have already activated authentication cookie. Now in controller you are saying please put my username into the username cookie, my user ID into name identifier. Out of these two, any one is required. If you want, you can give both also. That means both are user ID only, but one is parameter called username, one is parameter called name identifier. That means which is your unique identifier. In our case, both are same user ID only. Sometimes imagine your unique identifier is employee ID, then you have to collect employee ID and plug it here also. But in our case, only username is the unique identifier. That's why I put user ID in both the cases. Then comes role, line number 37. So I'm picking the role. Imagine that guy is having 3 roles. Then every time for each loop will run, it will pick one role and it will put into the authentication cookie. So claim type dot role, whatever role, claim type dot name identifier, user ID, and claim type dot username is user ID. All 3 things you put into the authentication cookie. Once you put into authentication cookie, wherever you go, whichever controller you target to, controller number 2, controller number 3, wherever you go, everywhere this cookie will be accessible. As long as that computer is same. It's a client side data, guys. Okay. So if computer is different, obviously this is not accessible, which is good thing. In your laptop, if you are accessing your net banking, nobody is going to hack in your laptop. They will try from some other laptop. That's why in some other laptop when they are trying, obviously it will say cookie is not available. So as long as you are logging in the same computer, same browser, that will be available. So it's a browser level data plugin. Now it kept it and then added into something called claims identity, whatever you added into the authentication cookie. So claims identity equal to new claims identity. So your object claims, which is having 3 things, user ID, role ID and employee ID if any, but in our case there is no employee ID, user ID. And then you have to say that please put this object into authentication scheme. Authentication scheme says wherever you want to check authentication cookie, it should give only one user ID and only one role, or multiple role if you are plugged, multiple role. Line number 42, up to this it was just preparing the data, okay, and putting into authentication cookie. But line number 44 will say login successful. That means once authentication done and put all the data into authentication cookie, then it will identify to HTTP context that sign in process is done. After that only that will be available. So this is inbuilt HTTP context functionality. It has to be called through awaited functionality. That means if your work is going on, it will await. Once this will be finally saying that yes, authentication is done, authorization is supposed to happen, and your cookie is holding the data. After that only it will let you to go to the line number 46 because it's a awaited functionality. Now in line number 46, it is trying to redirect to index page. Index page is nothing but your second controller index page. So I have another controller, this one. Have a look. In this controller, I have something called index action method. So idea is, if all goes good, please redirect to this. Now, going forward to this particular action method, index action method, if I will say role should be admin, for example, I will say role should be admin. For a minute, I am providing an action method label. Okay, role should be admin, I wrote. Now, unless your repository is returning admin role, it will not allow. That means it is indirectly saying this action method is accessible only for admin. Right? So this is the last step. That means when you redirect to the target controller and target action method, in the target action method, you use the authorize attribute. Along with that, you have to give which role of the person should be accessing to this particular action method. So first time I gave this action method should be accessible to admin, suppose. That means it should be a positive case. So let's run it once and see whether it is accessible. I will put a breakpoint here, line number 46, and here also I will put a breakpoint, line number 14. Since I gave role equal to admin, it should allow me to go there. First we'll do a positive test case, then we'll go for negative test case. If role is other than this, then what? Acha, while running, let me tell you, action method level, if I give the attribute, that is only for that action method. Okay. But if I will give same thing in controller level, then it is for all action method of that controller level. Simple difference. So no need to confuse when should I give above the action method, when should I give above the controller. If I give above the controller, that will be applicable to all the action method of that controller. So I gave it in action method level now. That means if he is redirecting to delete, it will allow. But if he is redirecting to index, it will not allow. That is if it is not admin. If it admin, it will be allowed to both of them. So let's go for a positive test case that currently if I will go for any user ID and any password, currently since I am not connecting with the database, I am hard coded that it is success authentication. So it will come here. Now I have put a breakpoint here in index. So let's see whether it is coming. Can you see? It came to line number 14. Right? And as usual, it went to that index action method and displayed the data. Now what I will do, I will intentionally send one more role. Imagine that when it went to repository, it cross-checked user ID password. User ID password is correct only, but his role is, let's say, staff. Okay? You came to know in the repository that his role is staff for that user ID. Let's run it now, see what happens. So as per the rule, it is a role-based authorization. So when it will try to go to the target action method, it should redirect him to the login page, because in our middleware we have written that if anything goes wrong, either he doesn't have permission or he is trying to redirect to wrong URL. In both the cases, please redirect him to login page. So usually it should redirect to login page. So where is the control now? I think it just opened the browser. Let me type anything and any password. Click on login. Came here. That means authentication is correct. But when it is redirecting to authorization, that means target page, this target page is expecting a role of admin, but in my authentication cookie, my role is something else. Okay, role is something else. In this claimed role, I might have added staff. Okay, so staff has been added, but it is expecting admin. Now have a look. It is redirecting to login page. Same thing you can try at the controller level also. Acha, sometimes we don't give role based authorization, we give only authorize. Okay, only authorize means whether it is a controller level or whether it is action method level, whatever it is. Only authorize means, meaning is authentication is mandatory. That means your cookie should have any user ID, any role, then it is allowed. But if he is directly coming here without login screen, then it will not allow. That is what the meaning of simply authorize. So currently, whatever role it comes, it will allow. But he should come from login screen. If by chance you came to know your URL and you are trying to hit to that, it will not allow. Let me show you all the scenarios. I'll show you. So currently, I'm coming from login screen in this browser. Okay, suppose I came here. This is a proper login because he came from login screen and it is allowing him. Okay, and it is going there and accessing the page. But somebody came to know this URL. Which URL? Second page URL. Now he is opening another browser or in another computer. He is trying to access that. Okay. Just put that URL and press enter. Have a look. It is not taking me to that screen because it says authorization is required. So simply authorization required means you can have any role, no problem, but at least come from login screen. That indicates simply authorized attribute. That means without login screen, without user ID password putting, directly you cannot come to this screen. That is called simply authorized attribute. So authorize means at least user ID password login screen you should come from, then only target here. Any role is okay. But this line number 10 means you should have come from login screen as well as your role should be admin. Sometimes what happens, imagine I put this in the controller level. I said that, hey, if you are admin, then only you are allowed. Then what will happen? The moment you put this in line number 7, if this controller is having 10, 20 function also, it will apply to all of them. But in between one function, you want to say that please allow anonymous. Then you have to say allow anonymous. So the moment you say allow anonymous, this rule will not be applicable to that action method. Now, if somebody is trying to delete, it will say, hey, are you admin? Then only you can delete it. But if somebody is trying to access index, it will say most welcome, whether you are admin or anybody. Login, not login. Allow anonymous means what? Anybody is allowed. So whenever you have 10 functions, 9 functions should be for admin, 1 function anonymous, then put it in the top level 1 time. Instead of copy pasting 9 times, put it in the top level 1 time. And for that function which you want to allow anonymous, put that allow anonymous like this. Okay. So these are various scenarios you have to work with. Now, any quick question, guys?
Sir,
Your voice is breaking.
sir, Mantra.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sir, one question I have, like in this case,
No, your voice is breaking. Totally not audible. Anybody else?
sir.
Mhm.
Actually, I want to check here session out time, sir. In second controller, how to check that session out time?
Session out time is different. This is not session. This is actually cookie.
Okay.
So session is different. Session, that state session you are talking about, FBC state.
Yes, sir. I
So
want
that
to
is
check.
different. That is different. File setting the data, you can put the time out there. That is not related to this.
Sir, that okay, sir. But how to check here, sir? In second controller, is it session out or not? Like that, I want to verify the year in second controller.
It is authenticating and not authenticating. It is not about session. Session is different actually. So for session timing, you have to give in the configuration that for my session, how much time should be there.
There I gave, sir, but I want to check here whether is it.
No, it will not go, na. If your session is out, it will not go to target controller at all. It will redirect to login screen. Because session out means it will not go to coding layer at all. Got it?
Okay, sir. In my case, it is coming, sir, but some value. Okay, sir, I will check.
Okay. Any other question? Quick. I'm getting late for next.
This authentication cookie, it will create every time we run the application.
Correct.
Or every time
every time log in.
Login and login.
Absolutely. Every time you log in, it will create one cookie, and once you log out, it will clean that cookie.
Oh, okay. So the scope of the cookie will be until the login and logout time.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Another question?
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Sir, my question is like, if we have the situation like we have in the menu.
Go ahead. No, I'm not able to hear you. Guys, able to hear?
No, sir.
Based on the menu, we want to show the selected items. Right?
Not able to understand, Manish. Your voice is totally breaking. So,
Okay,
call me later. Let me jump to next class. You can call me later. After 9 o'clock, you can call me. I will clarify.
Okay, sir. Thank you.